Welcome to Catholic Homeschool Radio, where we begin conversations to help parents enrich their lives and make practical decisions for the future.
Welcome back, friends. We are discussing with Pip Donahoe and Eileen Kochak what it means to have a classical curriculum. And so they're going to give us kind of the nuts and bolts of how they set things up. And our listeners, I know, are generally homeschooling parents or people sympathetic to homeschooling. But I think these classical schools that are coming up are going to be good transition programs for a lot of homeschooling parents. In fact, some of the classical schools that are being set up they have a dual program, and one is for the student in the desk all day, and the second is for the homeschoolers in the area. And I think that's a fabulous direction to go. So we want to talk about what makes them genuine and accountable, and we can pretty much guess who is manning these schools. A lot of them are young graduates, many from homeschooling families. You have veteran teachers of schools and homes. There's a huge group of schools, charter schools in Arizona, and it's called the Great Hearts Charter Schools, and they're basically a classical education program. Isn't that right, Eileen? And then you have other schools run by Hillsdale, and I would trust any program that Hillsdale gets involved in. They have an excellent headmaster of the whole charter program that Hillsdale's involved in. So let's say you have your classical education. You have the young tutors who are filled with energy and enthusiasm. You have the older mentors, which is really necessary because you are getting kids out of college, and they need to know how to operate with other children in a classroom. And so I think mentoring is a really big part of a successful school. And probably you have the basement to start in somebody else's church to start your your program in. So there are two things I hear all the time associated with these schools. There's ICLE and NAPSUS. So, Eileen, can you tell me what ICLE is? Are you involved with that, and what does that have to offer you?
So the ICLE, the Institute for Catholic Liberal Education, has been a big help to me in actually the forming of the initial website we did, any kind of philosophical vision that they used to have when they were when their website first came up, a whole section called the Headmaster's Desk, and from there I was able to pull a large part of the initial mission statement. What is classical education for our day today? Mm-hmm. And in fact, Luke Masick, who is is on their board, is also an advisory on my advisory board, and he is my school is modeled after his school, the Lyceum in Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
So
did you meet him through?
I met him at Wyoming Catholic College.
Oh, okay. You're already connected.
So
but for to be involved, to have to be associated with ICLE is something you can do on the internet. You don't even have to meet any of these people.
Oh no, they have a great website.
And is there any cost to you to
There is if you want to be a member school.
Okay.
And it's like $200 or something or to be a member school. And there's not a lot of member schools, but certainly people take advantage of their conferences. They'll have people come to your school if you need help in how to implement a Socratic method, or what is I'm going to say it incorrectly. Mimetic.
Yeah, I know what that is. I hear you.
They're great helps in that, and their conferences are wonderful. I went to their very first conference 2 years ago. There was only 40 participants. This year, passed in the Philadelphia area, they had 200.
Oh, that's fantastic. That means that's the growth of classical education. So how long have they been around?
At least 2 years, but I think before that, Andrew Seeley,
Yeah.
I think began it probably before that, and he did because unlike the Protestants have the Association for Classical and Christian
Oh,
classical schools,
Mm-hmm.
and they have some other association, and the Catholics did not have one.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a way to share, have all the schools in the United States that are liberal arts schools to share their experience,
Mm-hmm.
their curricula with each other,
And help people just get started with the program.
Started.
So
Yes.
somebody could just Google this and say, I want to start one, and they'll just roll out the information for them, or it's all there on the website, or
I don't
do
know
they
if they'll
have to be?
roll out. You really have to do the work yourself. I mean,
Okay.
NAPSUS has a kit.
Okay, NAPSUS is something else. So
Yeah.
all right.
So I think there is a pull down menu in the menu about starting a school, and they probably would steer you to people who have done it.
Okay.
And there's probably little, because I didn't need to do that anymore by the time they did set that up.
Okay. So ICLE is sort of content oriented, what the classical education program is going to look like. And then NAPSUS has been around for a longer time. And do you want to tell us what that is?
Yes, so that's the National Association of Private Catholic Independent Schools.
Okay.
And they're an accrediting body, which we made those, we're now an approved candidate for accreditation. So we're
Okay.
undergoing a self-study now. And that's a big deal because...
Why do you want to be accredited?
So a couple of reasons. First, parents are looking for that.
Yeah.
And I would look for it
Mm-hmm.
as a parent, even though we might not even understand what accreditation
Mm-hmm.
means, right? It just looks, oh, okay, someone says this school's okay. So there's the first thing. The second was actually people look on NAPSUS for Catholic schools.
Oh, yeah.
And there are 2 in New Jersey, at least 2. There might be more now. I mean, there might be 3 listed on NAPSUS in New Jersey.
All right. So if someone's in a regular diocesan school, they're not governed by NAPSUS, or could they choose to be accountable to NAPSUS and look to them for accreditation?
I believe each individual Catholic school in a diocese would seek accreditation on their own through middle states. And I was involved with that when I taught in a Catholic school, and I was involved in middle states accreditation for an elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
So not many
They've got their own thing going.
Yeah, many private schools are not accredited, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean anything.
That they're deficient, right?
That they're deficient.
I know. But NAPSUS does give people an idea of the seriousness of the project, and that they're trying to be accountable, and those are all good things.
Especially
Yeah.
Catholicity. I think that's
Oh,
very
okay.
important.
So NAPSUS, it can take away your
No.
accreditation if you're not Catholic?
No, not at all. But what it means is that they ask you how Catholic is your faculty.
Okay, because
your board.
the
The
I
oath
in NAPSUS is independent
and
schools,
we
so
take
they
an
don't.
oath of fidelity to the teaching magisterium and the profession of faith.
Oh.
So we all do that.
Even if you're an independent school.
Yes. They give you, if you go on their website, they actually give you an oath of fidelity that you can adopt, and the profession of faith. And these are one of the things that they list when you're applying for accreditation to get to the point where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
So I provided all these documents, including the bylaws, all the legal kind of things, being a 501c3, and also the do you do an oath of fidelity and your handbook and
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very tight organization.
Yeah,
as far
that's
as
good.
It's not just this loosey goosey.
Okay, so and then how do you get your 501c3 status? Is that through
This? Yeah, you have
the
to
state?
You have to do that yourself.
So that's. I mean, is that a pain? Was that difficult?
I have to say I did get help for that.
Okay,
I had to pay for the help.
From whom? Some kind of a.
It was a website that
an
they were just they help you get your 501c3 if you're a nonprofit.
Okay.
So first I had to go for my nonprofit status with the state of New Jersey, And then from there, they have continued and filed all the forms for me, but I had to answer a lot of questions. It took some time. It was a internet company. They're like an accounting company.
Yeah.
And I won't say the name because I can't remember it. But I can tell you that. But they were very, very helpful.
Okay, so
I
it's
did
out
have to
there.
pay that.
Okay.
Pay for their service, because you're gonna have to pay somebody, whether it be a lawyer, an accountant.
Would NAPSUS help with that, or they would just point you in
They
the
point
direction?
you, 'cause
That in your state, this is what you do.
It's like your income tax. You got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
But you might need help.
Uh-huh.
So that's something you have to pay out to the government. What that is, it's about $800.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Then you
That's
have to
prohibitive.
pay out.
I think
You have to pay out for anybody that helps you.
Yeah.
So, but it's good to have. You have to have it, and if you can get somebody help you pay, if you're an individual wanting to start a school, you just have to know that those are the initial costs.
Okay, so 3 things for those who are interested. If you're just doing investigating, start with the Institute for Catholic Liberal Education, which is ICLE, and it's run by Andrew Seeley, who is a professor at Thomas Aquinas College, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's very interesting. And I've looked at the website. It is it's very easy to get around and get lots of information from that. And then the second thing you would look into is NAPSUS, so you have a sense of getting anchored in the community, and you are a school seeking accreditation, and that's probably easier or important also within a diocese, so that they're not looking at, so that they can see you as a real entity. I'm sorry.
I was going to say NAPSUS has a kit.
Okay. For starting a school?
They'll give you, I don't know if it's called a kit, but
K through 12. Any.
It's probably for anything.
Just getting in there.
They do have how to start a school kind of thing. So,
and then the third thing would be your state papers, which if you're doing a for-profit school, more power to you. And I guess you file papers for that. And there are for-profit schools, and but most likely these classical programs will be in non-for-profit schools, and that's acquiring a 501c3 status. That's what you'd have to investigate. Pip, I want to ask you: did your students at the school are encouraged to take the CLT instead of the SAT? Can you explain what that is?
Well, actually, we do both. We encourage both. The CLT is a new equivalent to an SAT test for college entrance based on classical education. So for the students that are getting a classical education, it's going to reflect their skills more than an SAT would. We actually are a test center for the CLT. Now,
how did you get that status then? Who'd you pay?
We just I didn't pay anybody. I went on their website, and then a chat box comes up.
Please.
And I said, I'm not a student. I want to be a test center. And the person who responded said, well, what a coincidence. I'm the Northeast Test Center coordinator.
Oh, okay.
So we talked, and I ended up talking to Jeremy Tate, who is the developer of the CLT.
Okay, who is he?
He's the developer of the CLT.
Is he Catholic?
I think he is Catholic. He is Catholic.
And he's a proponent of a classical liberal or classical
liberal education.
Okay.
Yes. And anybody can take this because it's straightforward. If you've learned how to read, if you've learned math, take their practice tests on the website.
Okay.
And
did any of your students take it last year?
It just started this year.
This year.
And our students are going to take it in January.
No, we have a couple in November.
So we have some in November and January, I think we were going to do. But yes, we do want our students to take it.
Have they looked at the tests, some of the kids? Have you gotten a response from them?
No, a lot of them are preparing for SATs and ACTs.
Or PSAT next week.
And you can be any 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th to take. You can take it. So it'd be nice for just parents who don't want to do standardized tests, but then this is
Yeah.
something they could do.
Yeah.
Um,
Did
more
you-
colleges are starting to
yeah, they
accept
have
it.
like
What-
20-something colleges.
Well, that's not too many.
Well, for our circle, it is, I guess.
Okay, so and they're generally programs that are liberal arts programs.
St. John's actually
Oh, St.
accepts
John's
this.
in
St. John's does.
Annapolis?
Oh,
Oh,
St. John's
fantastic.
and King's College in Manhattan.
Oh,
So Protestant
okay.
schools
So
as
there are
well.
some.
Oh,
and secular.
interesting. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know that Thomas More College is offering a scholarship of $1,000 a year to each student they accept who takes the CLT test?
Who takes it?
Yeah.
Well,
So if any of your
s-
students are thinking of Thomas More,
well,
they should take it. Even
The
if they need to
CLT
take
is
the
offering a
SAT.
scholarship for whoever
Oh,
gets
yeah.
a perfect score.
Yeah, that's
for
fantastic.
A free ride for 4 years wherever
Who's
they go.
yeah? Who's
So
whose
that's
money is
I
that?
don't know.
no. It's a great way to promote it. And,
Yeah, no,
it's
that
great
is.
to get it noticed, especially if the students go to a school that doesn't accept the test.
Yeah.
That
Well-
would be great to get it more.
Will
known.
they be asking questions on texts that they assume all the kids have read,
No,
or
they
every text will be
actually-
there in
every
the
text is
book?
there. I looked at it.
Okay.
The text is there. And then
Like
they
the
answer
SAT,
questions.
you have a
Okay.
selection to read, but the selections will be more in keeping with their education. I just remember doing prep work with my daughter for the SAT and looking at reading the selections and being somewhat appalled by them.
Yeah.
So you won't, that factor obviously will be missing.
Yeah. I told my son when he was taking an AP test and also the SAT test for the essay, I said, if you throw in To Kill a Mockingbird for almost any subject, it's going to work your way because that's one of their
The
you know
main text, yeah.
iconic
Oh, really?
books. Yeah. Okay, so and then I'm going to ask you, your kids have already taken the Latin. They've participated in the national Latin. What is that test? And you got 2 perfect scores or something?
Yeah, my son was one of them.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome! And who was the other student?
It was
Isabella?
was it
Isabella?
Isabella?
Who's one of our
And-
seniors
one of our
this year.
seniors.
So so you had been training your son with Latin for 4 years or something, or
we
was it
did
just
Latin just as homeschoolers?
Yeah.
Oh, and these are level tests too.
Yes,
This
these are
wasn't
level.
like the
Okay,
highest.
all
They
right.
didn't. They didn't take the highest.
So they could be
test.
beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
but-
They take
so-
the
but they-
level test where they are in Latin,
Uh-huh.
and then they're scored.
Uh-huh.
So
accordingly.
yes,
And is your son is he a server at the Latin
yes,
Mass?
he is.
Okay, so he's had some familiarity with that too, which is really wonderful for the kids.
And we're also taking the Greek exam for the first time this year, the national Greek exam.
Oh, who's doing that?
The national classical. They're the American Classical League, whatever
Who's
they're
teaching Greek?
called. Oh, me.
How are you doing?
I don't know.
They read the
Honestly,
first chapter of
it's great.
John's Gospel last year.
Oh, well, and that's okay.
They read it. I don't know. I mean, they probably understood it because
Read it.
they're familiar with the
Yes.
the,
But
they can read it.
the prologue.
Of course, yeah.
And they can actually read some of the words in the Euclid in the back there of our text are the Greek terms.
It's
And they
pretty
can say them. It's
exciting
great.
what they're able to do, even though they struggle. But when you step back, if I were to show you the book we use Athanase, which I think every college that teaches in Greek will use. It's just pretty amazing that they can read it, and they struggle a bit, but they can read it, and it's just really it's a feat, a great feat.
Yes,
I
it
think.
is. Yeah. But with the kids who choose that, do they have an objective? Sometimes kids just throw themselves into something because it's different or it's a challenge, and that's a great way to get started in so many things. But what is their objective in studying classical Greek?
Well, they have to take it. They don't-
Your kids, all your students do?
Everybody takes
Everyone
everything.
takes it.
One
We
year-
don't have electives.
2 years of Greek,
At least 2 years of Greek.
and so 4 years of Latin and 2 years of Greek.
Yeah, at least 4 years of Latin, 2 years of Greek.
Don't tell them.
No,
that we're giggling.
I thought
Well,
the math was we had to get through that, but Greek.
But
that's great.
They see how they use their memory.
Oh yes,
They have to hold the thought
Yeah.
you have to read that whole sentence till you get to the end because the predicate's over there.
Yes.
So it's quite wonderful though, because the it's like skiing. If you've never skied before and you say, "Hey, I'm 40 years old and I'm going to learn how to ski," or "I'm 10 years old," and you do it,
Right.
it's like wow.
Yeah.
I've climbed Mount Everest. I've studied Greek and I've
Yeah.
read this passage.
Yeah. There's, do you know who Patrick Leigh Fermor is? He's a British writer, Irish, of Irish descent. He lived late into his 90s, and he smoked 80 cigarettes a day at one point. And for a long time, he was, a huge smoker, but that's not what he was known for. It's just that he was this very good-looking, rugged man. And he, at the age of 18, he took off from England and just hiked across Europe. And his education was so good that, he was a travel writer, but he would when he ended up in Greece, he would see the sites that Horace had talked about, and he would recite his Greek poetry because it was in his heart. He knew it. And of course, we all love that. And, we would love that for our children to have that connection with their past. And not everyone will attain those heights, but it should.
If we can get them to at least appreciate those heights.
Absolutely.
That's a huge step.
Really true. Okay. Getting back to to Latin, I'm going to read your motto, which I think is so beautiful. And I might, Pip, you want to say it? So,
no, my pronunciation is
well, I can kill it with my pronunciation.
Go ahead.
Okay. Si quis indiget sapientia postulat a Deo in fide. If any want wisdom, ask God in faith. And that's from the letter of James. And I think that's so beautiful. Which of you discovered that?
Actually, it's my husband who did, and he
Really?
shortened it because it was actually.
I know
people are so critical. Oh no, it should be catchy. It should be this or that.
Oh,
So we try
okay.
to make it catchy, but there's not much catch in.
Yeah. No, I did see that there was a couple of like autumn or something was excluded. But if any want wisdom, ask God in faith. So the Catholic classically educated student does want wisdom and does seek the truth, but God has something to do with that. And of course, that's what you're trying to do with your students all the time. Did he have a particular reason for? Was there something more that why did that stand out for him?
Well, the fact that the name of the school, we wanted to find a motto or that would go with the name.
Oh yeah, we haven't given the name of the school.
Oh my gosh!
Can you?
Sede Sapientiae School.
Okay.
So the seat
in
of
Chatham?
wisdom. Yes, in Chatham, New Jersey.
Okay, the seat of wisdom. All right.
So the motto had to reflect the name,
Mm-hmm.
and he happened to recall James, so he worked with that. We worked with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because that's finally the end of education is wisdom, not a job, as the modern ethos is.
Yeah.
That's wisdom we're trying to attain.
And I always love that wisdom is there. There's always a sense when you talk about wisdom in Scripture, it's there, but you have to seek it, and then it happens to be at the garden gate, standing there. There are those images where it's the truth. Wisdom is right there before us, but there's also the sense that you have to seek it. You have to be a pilgrim.
And sometimes a really hard pilgrimage to it. It's not always easy.
It's interesting. I had spoken about this before, about in our mission statement, the last line is there. The last line reads something like, for the students to become witnesses of eternal truth.
Uh-huh.
And I talked about how with our students, how sometimes, we are called to a martyrdom, a real physical martyrdom, but some of us aren't going to have that. We're going to have a longer martyrdom where we have to stretch out our life and live to natural death.
Mm-hmm.
And we would be that witness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Witness to eternal truth. So in studying what we study, in drawing wisdom from our studies, which is Christ,
Mm-hmm.
we are witnesses to eternal truth. We're
Mm-hmm.
martyrs. And I think that's so, I think one of the topics maybe that you wanted maybe to cover was virtue, and that idea of being a witness every day to the eternal truth is a huge, it's huge to practice charity every day, to be a witness to what it is to love, is what, see love and be love
Mm-hmm.
and do love.
And some of the most beautiful things that have ever been written about love were written by the ancient Greeks and the Romans. Cicero's beautiful treatise on friendship comes to mind. But to have those in your possession and then to look at them also from a Christian point of view is to give the kids the tools to perfect their understanding of these subjects. And also, I know that it's important to you, as it is to me, that our kids understand the culture that they're in, and we have to strengthen them, against the assaults of the culture. And just for a few minutes, what do you have a policy on phones and screens with homework and during the school day?
Yes. We are for technology when it's needed and has a place. But at school, we do not allow phones to be out. If they have a phone to call, it can only be used after school and not publicly. We do not use the internet at school. For their work. They bring computers when we're working on writing so that they can use their computer for writing, because it's obviously a great tool for that.
Mm-hmm.
The tutors obviously use the internet for research or information that they need. So it's not that we think it's a bad thing in itself, but that we want them to understand the proper usage of it. But with our program, there isn't an immediate need for the internet with what we're studying, because we're studying texts, and we don't want them to get somebody else's opinion about the text
Mm-hmm.
before they read the text.
Mm-hmm.
So at school, we do not allow that.
Yeah, and is there any problem with the kids, with the screens?
No, we have very good families.
Yeah, so they get it.
The only difficulty I would say, and it's just because these kids are from the culture, we're all from the culture that we're in today, a habitual issue if they use the computer for good things, email and Google Chat and the things that they do, that they have to develop a new habit of turning that off when they do their studies.
Yeah.
Because it is a distraction. And for them to understand that, because I don't think they do initially. They don't, well, I'm not just looking on the internet, it's just there.
Yes,
but it's a distraction. And so for them to develop that habit, and they have to do that on their own because they're at home. We can't.
Right.
We can't.
They think they have to
that.
respond to it all the time.
Right.
And that's what I find so disturbing. And there are all sorts of studies now that are lamenting the use of screens and instead of real social interaction. So you have your students; they have to talk in the classroom, don't they?
They have to.
Do you use a Socratic method?
Yes.
And
Socratic method, and also we have an hour lunch.
You don't let them text and answer.
No.
We have an hour lunch on purpose because we want them to converse.
Oh, uh-huh.
And again, there are no phones, there's no computers, so they have to converse with each other, and we're trying to foster that.
It was really beautiful because last year and then the beginning of this year, because it was new, their conversations are always not, they're about whatever movie, something, or whatever video game, or whatever zombie thing
Apocalypse.
is happening. And of course, I guess I'm just a fuddy-duddy and I can't appreciate those things all the time. And it seems like 100% with them. But the other day they had an hour-long, it went beyond hour-long on religious liberty. And
my gosh.
It was from their history class.
History class.
Uh-huh.
And the thing is, the senior came in with that idea. And even the younger kids, the sixth graders were in on it. No, the kids fell out and they wanted to go outside and do whatever. But it kept, there was about 6 of them left over banging it out
the
with
conversation
that.
from the history class all
wonderful.
through lunch.
We were just
That's
going, wow,
fantastic.
this is great.
So it
What
works.
had precipitated that? I know a history class,
reading.
but what was
A
do you
reading
remember what it
class.
was?
It was probably
Something on monarchy or
it was
The
an
church and-
encyclical.
Oh, okay.
oh yeah, the encyclical on
It might have been
an older encyclical.
Okay.
It was an older encyclical, and so the thing about building can you build other churches? And
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that started
see.
the conversation.
So, there's a book out called Reclaiming Conversation, and it's written by a psychologist who works with MIT, and she looks at what technology, how it affects people and their behavior. And she was just lamenting how young people are not talking to each other. So this is another aspect of your program, classical education, that I love, that it puts ideas out there on the table for the kids, to just grab it and take up and start talking, and that's conversation, and that's civilization.
One thing, I mean, I homeschooled and I loved homeschooling, and I think it's excellent, but that you can't do homeschooling. I mean, you can't do it in homeschooling.
Oh, that
where
is
the
a
children
problem.
have a conversation
Yeah.
and they learn to have to listen to others and to articulate their own views.
That's right.
We're really lucky with the school. We say Lauds, morning prayer together. So the students, it's like public speaking. They have to lead it. They have to be able to lead it. They have to speak in public. They have to demonstrate their Euclid propositions.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just before mom and their siblings.
Exactly.
They have to
So
pick it up a little bit.
It's sort of the rhetoric, the trivium, the liberal art of rhetoric, that they do a lot of public speaking. And that's something, again, that it's hard to do in a homeschooling environment.
Yeah.
But that these kids are really getting that opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to articulate, be able to
I love
articulate
that.
a position. And
So when they're
defend it.
reading Lauds, somebody leads it. They take turns leading.
We take turns. They all know how to do it now, and so they take a turn and they assign
and
the
do you
reader.
face each other like as they would in the choirs,
Sort of.
Sort of.
The crucifix.
Uh-huh.
we do the
and
crucifix.
bow
We're
at certain
somewhat,
times. And do they
we
know
try.
those?
We don't-
Well, if
we
you're
don't-
standing, you bow. But
Yeah.
we do it pretty
Okay.
straightforward, and we do some of it in Latin. Some of it is chanted. So
that's
the whole
beautiful.
they're learning all of that. And,
Okay, that sounds great. We're going to pick this up with one more session, I think. Thanks, ladies.